Hello and welcome to another captaincy video from Fantasy Football Scout. Game week 7 was okay for most of our top captaincy shouts. Kane and Salah did enough to justify the armband with a goal apiece. But with City taking on Liverpool this week, could the Spurs men be the best captaincy choices? So what we're going to do is we're going to start with Spurs, an away trip to West Brom. David, welcome. You captain Kane as well as myself, I understand.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
got to be happy with that.
Yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, in a season when it's been a bit unpredictable, getting an attacking return for your captain is kind of like, that's all I ask, really. A bit annoying because I think that makes it 2 weeks in a row that I have captained one of Kane or Salah, and the other one scored more points than one I captained. But, you know, I still feel like I made the right decision at the time because I still maintain that West Ham's defence is better than Brighton's defence. And Salah, outside of penalties, had not been offering too much. So, that's not to take the penalty away from him. He's always capable of getting them, of course, but you can't bank on penalties as much as I felt I could bank on Kane from open play. But hey, I got the points. That's all that matters to me. And but the lessons learned from the last game week, I always take into the next one for the captaincy. So here we are.
Also, I did, Salah, Kane, not too much between them. One gets 8, one gets 6. I mean, it's not,
exactly.
Great scheme of things. It's when Salah gets 20 points and Kane doesn't. That's when you start looking at that. But this could very well happen this week. So we were chatting just before on air. We were talking about Son and Kane's amazing away stats. So they're away. It's West Brom. Let's put them up. So the stats I've got up on the screen are Son and Kane away. In FPL terms, though, it's quite incredible. I could scarcely believe my eyes that Son away is averaging 19 points. Kane away is averaging 14 points. But Kane at home, 7.25. And Son at home, 4.5. So Son is not doing so well there. Spurs have played Southampton, Manchester United and Burnley on the road. And they played Everton, Newcastle, West Ham and Brighton at home. So I think, even though they played more at home than away, it's a good mix of teams, really. It's not like they've only just had poor teams and only tough teams. It's a nice mix there for both of them. So, yeah, I've tentatively got the armband on Kane. I've got the vice-captaincy on Son. I don't know which one. Which one do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough call this week. I mean, I think my gut says Kane, so that's probably where it's going to stay.
Yeah.
Because I had the same decision for this most recent game week between those two, really. If I was going to captain a Spurs player, and my gut said Kane, and I guess I was right, and so are you. So the reasons for that, I think, for me, even though he's a forward, Kane still feels like the more all-round asset. We've discussed a lot previously about the fact that this season he's offering points potential from pretty much every possible angle in terms of goals that he can score, which kind of goes without saying, really. Like, we all know that he's back, so to speak. Then that's obviously also helped by the penalties, which we can't forget. As I've just highlighted, the mistake I guess I made with Salah was just sort of writing him off a little bit. But he takes penalties, and so then in this conversation, if it's a choice between Kane and Son, then the penalties I think does have to count for a fair amount. But then of course there's the creativity as well. So if we're talking about the all-round appeal, I'd back Kane to get assists more than I would Son, who perhaps on away from home is going to be more often on the end of chances. But I feel like they're going to be on the end of chances an equal amount of time. So away matches so far this year, they've both had 8 shots in the box.
Yes.
So I feel like their goal threat is just about equal. But when you consider assist potential for these two players, in the last 4 matches, Kane's created 3 big chances, and Son much less than that. So, and we all know that, we all can see that from watching the games, that Kane is a bit like the Salah or the Hazard of old, where it was like, that a goal and assist are probably as likely as each other. So then that's why he's the better option for me, because then with that becomes a greater chance he's going to get some bonus points, and then all of those things together, I think, just kind of make up for the fact that Son's a midfielder. And the other thing is, I think that sometimes under Mourinho, Son can drift wider than we'd like as well. So I always just kind of trust. Right now, I'm trusting Kane a lot more. Part of it is unquantifiable because, like I said, a lot of it is my gut, but I still think there's good reasons for it. I guess the only other thing just to say is that just to clarify something I said last week, I think West Brom's defence
Ah.
is on the improvement.
We said that
Which
on the Scoutcast too. We
yeah,
noticed improvement, but
so we've all taken note, but I think this 2-0 defeat to Fulham suggests that maybe that was a bit of a false dawn, to be honest, which is good. That's good news. I mean, the fact that we were keeping an eye on that was definitely worth doing,
yeah,
because now that we have done it, I have absolutely no qualms captaining a Spurs player against that West Brom defence. I mean, it is still not quite as bad as it was, but if they can concede 2 goals to a Fulham team who really haven't looked very good this year, then this super-powered Spurs attack, as you say, super-powered,
yeah,
especially away from home, then yeah, it's a
yeah.
kind of an easy fixture to choose.
I mean, at home, I think obviously, and as it's been proved, Kane is the better option of the two. But we're coming to an end of Spurs' good run of games as well, so we're probably not going to have that choice for a while. Other players will get our attention with the armband. But as you can see from the stats we put up away, they've had Son's had 7 goals, Kane's had 3 goals, but Kane's had 6 assists and Son's only had the 1 assist. So exactly what you were highlighting there. If you're looking for goal and assist potential there, but you look at their goal involvement, 75 there for Kane and 73 for Son. Basically, if they score, if Spurs score, it's probably going to be Kane and Son assist or goal, one of those two. And if someone else is involved, Lamella or someone or Bale, chances are the assist or the goal is going to go to Kane or Son. So
I think Son's been involved in 9 of Kane's 14 attacking returns this year. So the double up is sort of just like, dare I say it, essential at this point, especially for this game week. And probably not in the long term, as you mentioned. The fixture swing isn't nice, but in this particular game, I think. Well, I mean, let's pull another aspect into this, and that's like ownership and effective ownership. When we look at the captain poll, which isn't, to be fair, always a good measure, because I'm pretty sure Salah's won the last 2, and then Kane has been captained by more in the top 10k. But this is all we have at the moment. Kane is running away with the captain poll on Fantasy Football Scout with 46% of the vote. Son's on 24.1%, and then in third place is Ziyech on 3%. Okay. So it really is all about the Spurs assets. So if we're thinking about how damaging this game can be if you're not kind of set up correctly for this game week, then it has to be one of those two. And then if you want to play it safe, then I have to say it's Kane. And normally when we say play it safe, we're talking about a player with like a lower floor, and so then a player who maybe might get about 6 points versus a more explosive player. But I actually don't think that Son necessarily counts as a considerably more explosive option than Kane. The explosive options are options who have the ability to get any kind of attacking return, be that goals, assists, or bonus. So I don't. Kane is the safe option from an ownership perspective, but he's also the explosive option from an underlying statistic perspective. So for me, I just cannot look past him. That pretty much just encapsulates the gut feeling that I've had pretty much since I set my best team.
Sometimes in FPL you've got to look at those sort of swords and those shields. And I've had Kane a little while, but I haven't had Son, to my detriment. But I saw the ownership, the explosive potential. Even though he hasn't done it at home so far, that can happen at any time. I'm not even sure whether home and away is a thing anymore. It appears slightly at the moment with Son and Kane. But this away match I had in mind, going into that with just Kane, even in captaining Kane, it's not enough when they're so highly owned and so explosive. And if they're averaging, in the double digit hauls both in every away match, I think it's very important to have 2. But if you don't have both, it's a problem at the moment, because you probably won't want both, because their fixture run, as we're going to talk in the Scoutcast this week, is diabolical. And you probably won't want to. There's plenty of other players there. But in the meantime, for the purpose of this video, looking for the captaincy, the coming game week, what's in front of us, we got a very porous West Brom defence that was a bit of a false dawn with a better defence. And we've got Son and Kane, highly owned, highly explosive players. Captain 1, you should get returns. We hope. For you and me, it looks like Kane is the one there. You mentioned Ziyech there, with his third in the captaincy poll with well under 5%. But I have put Chelsea second billing on this video and podcast, because I think they're really strong options, especially against Sheffield United. So I think they're really clicking. Ziyech, you've mentioned there. Werner as well was dropped. I mean, this is talk about a roller coaster for people, especially those that may have captained any of them. Pulisic in the team, Werner on the bench. Pulisic gets injured in the warm-up. It looks like it could be for a number of games. Werner probably back in, well, you would assume he is. And they started to click, and they're clicking away. Their defence is clicking away, the attack's clicking away. But yeah, you've been having a look at Chelsea. You were telling me some things around like on the left-hand side, but their ability to Sheffield United to concede headers as well. So yeah, why is this a good fixture to captain a Chelsea player?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's options all over the park for this. I think normally, you know, when we get these sort of like bandwagons build up in FPL, it's often you know, for the highly backed players for the week. And that maybe, you know, some statistical analysis might suggest that the bandwagon is undeserving of being one. But looking at some of the numbers for this game, I think Sheffield United are going to have a serious problem in this particular match because they are so porous on that right-hand side and have been all season. It seems to be George Bulldog that's kind of I don't want to say the problem because it's probably not just down to him, but everybody's targeting that side of the pitch and it's working really well. So so far this season, no team's conceded more shots, more chances down their right-hand side than Sheffield United. If you want a most recent example of just how damaging that could be, just look at João Cancelo's performance for Man City. He just had all the time in the world to do whatever he wanted. He set up 3 chances specifically for Torres by crossing from having too much space on that side of the pitch. Ironically enough, it was actually De Bruyne that got the assist in the end, but the assist for the Walker goal came from the right-hand side because of Sheffield United's defence, because he had time and space to put that pass in. In the last 4 matches, they're still in the bottom 3 for that particular stat. They're just really bad at defending on that side of the pitch. So that does bode very well for Timo Werner, who it's hard to say where he's going to start in that attack for Chelsea. You know, I don't think he's going to get benched again because I don't think Lampard has the option to because of Pulisic being injured. So there's 2 places he could play. He could either play centre forward, but as anyone who's watched him play centre forward, either for Leipzig or for Chelsea, will know he will drift to the left because it's just his natural tendency to do that because he used to be a left winger. Or he'll play on the left and Abraham's in the middle. Either way, Werner's going to have a lot of time and space on the left-hand side of the pitch for Chelsea, where Sheffield United really struggle to contain people. That obviously, of course, also bodes well for Ben Chilwell, who will basically be fulfilling the exact same role that Cancelo did for Man City in the most recent game week. So I'm not going to stand here and say Captain Ben Chilwell because I think that that's a bit much. But if you want to, then there's worse options because I do think that Chelsea's left-hand side are going to cause a lot of problems. The other thing is that Sheffield United, as much as they've also conceded the most number of shots down the right-hand side, they've also conceded the most number of shots from headers of any team as well, which was actually one of the reasons why I signed Zuma for game week 7, thinking, solid 6 points against Burnley, and then we'll get the attacking returns beyond that. Already a header up on the deal, which is great. But the matchup there looks really, really nice. But also Abraham's quite good in the air as well, potentially. So those 2 particular areas, I do think it's gonna create a bit of a. I think it's going to be a one-sided match because it's an overload on an area where Sheffield United are quite weak. So in games that have that kind of setup, we look for games that are going to be a whitewash. We want a 3 or 4-0 because then that's the best chance that the guy we've captained is hopefully got a double-figure haul. So all of these things combined. So I'm not saying captain Zuma, but entirely possible that inside 5 minutes they're 1-0 up because Zuma's nodded a goal in from a corner. Inside 10 minutes they've gone 2-0 up because Chilwell's crossed to Werner because they were both unmarked and he's put the ball in as well. Just creates a match that's really exciting for captaincy options. So the Spurs assets are comfortably the best this week, but obviously we always like to try and provide some alternatives. The best alternatives for me this particular week, I do think, are going to be in that Chelsea match.
So the stats we've got up on the screen are the Chelsea the last 4 game weeks, and that highlights the threat they've got there, with Werner top for shots inside the box, but Abraham. So if Abraham is playing Werner to the left, it's a win-win in terms of the Chelsea attack. Abraham there with 6 shots inside the box. Werner, interestingly, of his 7 shots inside the box last 4 game weeks, that's generated 3 goals and 5 shots on target. I'm really regretting getting rid of him about 4 weeks ago, because these are really good stats. Shooting frequently at close range, on target, and producing goals. So unlike, say, Harvey Barnes, who did score last night, but usually he just shoots lamely at the keeper.
The best, doesn't he?
Yeah. Also mentioning there, Zuma. 2 goals, 4 shots inside the box. You would think as a defender that's unsustainable. You would imagine so. Otherwise, he's heading for about 20 goals this season. But nevertheless, 4 shots inside the box, 3 on target, and that's produced 2 goals. And he's created a chance as well. So he's a really great option there. And Chilwell a bit further down there. But look at the chances created, 9. So he's already comfortably top for chances created over the last 4 game weeks for Chelsea. And as you said, he's facing a team which is very weak on the right. He's going to be attacking from the left. That's the classic matchup that we look out for at Fantasy Football Scout. Weak against strong. So yeah, lots of options there. Pulisic looks like he could be out. We think there. So yeah, lots of options. I think a very justifiable sort of second running to the Spurs assets. Let's move on. Manchester United. Now, I'll put Manchester United up for 2 reasons. One is against Everton. I don't like the look of Everton at the moment. I'm not saying that the Manchester United will definitely score, but I do like Manchester United away at the moment, if we believe home and away is a thing. And I don't like the look of Everton at the moment with the injuries and suspensions they're carrying. Plus, Manchester United are heading for a good run of fixtures imminently. So that makes the assets good investments to get in, but also a good place to put the armband if you do not want to captain a Spurs asset for some reason. So the figures I've got up on the screen show that really we're talking about Fernandes and Rashford, but also Martial back from suspension. Am I right in saying? Finally,
yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So, but obviously this is for the last few game weeks, last 4 game weeks. Martial not there because he's been suspended for a lot of that time. But it shows there that Rashford with 11 goal attempts, 6 of those inside the box, 5 on target, and just a goal. That says to me that he's possibly underperforming there. That's a sort of sleeping giant type of haul, and we've seen him get a hat-trick in Europe only recently. 6 chances created. Fernandes is getting hauled early, but has created 12 chances and had 10 goal attempts. These are good stats. Created 2 chances there, and 2 goals and an assist. So yeah, ticking along nicely. He's got penalties as well. I mean we're set on Spurs, aren't we, for the captaincy at the moment as our big recommendation, but credible alternative Manchester United.
Yeah, Man United. I think they've got a good matchup this week, as you say, because this Everton team. I think it's a bit of a crossroads in terms of can they sustain the incredible form that they had at the start of the season, and without the key players necessarily to do that, it's going to be hard. Interestingly enough, actually, in the last 4 matches, Everton, I think, have the worst expected goals conceded. Everton's is the worst, 7.83. And they're conceding in line with it as well. So their XGC delta is plus 0.37. So they've conceded 8 goals and they have deserved to do that. I think partially one of the reasons why their XGC is so high is that they've just faced Callum Wilson, who is, when he's playing well, he's like an XG king because he just it's penalties and tap-ins. That's basically that's basically why his XG is also good. That'll be why XGC for Everton is so poor. Do Man United have the same ability to do that? Absolutely. They love getting a penalty. Tap-ins are less of a thing at Man United, I think, but either way, the penalties are a big part. So I think, maybe they can get a result here. Martial back is really helpful. I think they played a diamond against Arsenal and it didn't really work. They played Greenwood and Rashford up front together, and Greenwood just didn't suit him at all. He actually ended up playing a lot deeper than he was supposed to for whatever reason. Not really sure. I don't really think he's necessarily suited to a centre forward role. Probably more suited to a wide role. But either way, Martial coming back is really good for them because it means Rashford can go back onto the left wing, where I think we would all agree he has been at his most effective for Man United under Solskjaer, cutting in, he's still a centre forward and he still uses that role to make lots of touches in the box, but he does it from a position where it's hard for the defenders to mark him because he cuts across and cuts through, slices through the gap between the fullback and the centre back, and that obviously causes a lot of problems. So yeah, I think they can do something. Obviously, the biggest thing when it comes to captaincy, that's got to be trust, and the trust isn't there with Man United. Even though there's a case for them, it's largely hypothetical based on the fact that Martial coming back could be a bit rusty. I mean, I know he's played in Europe, but I think higher standards slightly in the Premier League and what have you. So maybe, and as you say, good fixture run. So definitely want to keep an eye on for potential future captains.
Yeah, definitely. Let's have a look at the rest of the fixtures there. So just put them in really. If you're not going to go for a Spurs asset, you don't like the look of Chelsea, and even Manchester United don't appeal. There are a few other options should you want to. I've tentatively put Bamford against Palace in if you fancy for Leeds comeback after their display against Leicester.
Bamford's very good away from home. Actually, we were talking about the Spurs players are very good away from home. Bamford is another one. He's blanked in 3 of his last 4 home matches, and something like 67% of his points this season have come away from home, which makes complete sense when you play in a team like Bielsa's that very much thrives on counter-attacking ability, which is usually more effective when you're the away side. So, and also, actually, in the last 4 matches, regardless of venue, no players had more shots in the box than him. He's got 18. I think he's also top for big chances as well. So Bamford is still a great option. Anyone who's a little bit sort of flummoxed by the fact that he got a hat-trick and then blanked. The Palace game, big one.
He's got three away matches next 4, is that right?
Yes, that's right. So a definite hold as well, because the fixtures are... We actually covered this last week. When he scored his hat-trick, we did an article on site that was saying, you might not get too much in the home games, but because Leeds have actually a nice concentration of away matches in the next sort of 4 or 5 weeks, it's the perfect time to own Bamford because they're the matches he does best in.
Luckily, I got him in. So even though he blanked for me this week, I did have him with this sort of run in mind. Yes. Vardy against Wolves. Vardy, incidentally, looks an ideal replacement for Kane a bit further down the line. Leicester have a nice run of about 3 very favourable games just as Spurs fixtures turn. So that's just something, a little aside, we're a bit forward thinking there. But Vardy against Wolves, possibly. Think about the Wolves defence though, don't really concede too much. So not sure. Aubameyang, Grealish, and I haven't mentioned City, Liverpool. Is City Liverpool just too hard to call to go for Salah, Sterling, KDB? Just too hard to call.
Yeah, I think sometimes, I don't know, when these two sides meet earlier in the campaign, they sometimes go for it a little bit more than they do later in the campaign. But really, I mean, who knows? I mean, there's been such an unpredictable season. And people like me and you often get sort of like slated if things don't quite go the way we expected. So therefore, it's really easy for me to just be like, do you know what? I happily admit I have absolutely no clue what's going to happen in Liverpool when they go to Man City. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to talk about it. I think I'm tempted to sell Alexander-Arnold, but obviously that's not really going to.
Yeah, I'm tempted to send even Robertson for this one.
Yeah. So. But then also, like with the Man City players, I still feel that without Jesus, they're not at their best.
No.
So, I'm not going to be like, oh, De Bruyne is a definite go for this one. I mean, Jesus could be back soon and back ready and fully fit, but you just don't know. If this was at Anfield, I'd feel more confident captaining Salah, for example. But when it's at the Etihad, I can't really remember too many times when Salah has looked like he should have come away with a double-figure haul, with the exception of, I don't know if you remember, the 4-0 in Project Restart. Salah was tremendously unlucky not to get double-figure haul. I think he hit the post and he went through on goal and it was a good safe medicine. So that's his last trip there, so maybe. But I think Man City's defence is a lot better than it was. The combination of Diaz and Laporte looks really, really good. That's the kind of centre-back pairing that if they can get it up and running and get some good consistency there, then they can keep a lot of clean sheets. Is why I'm considering Cancelo for the fixture term, for example.
Yeah.
So with all of that there, I think Man City could win this game and keep a clean sheet. But like I said, I have no idea. So please don't ask me what's going to
No,
happen in that game.
it's
So I'm not captaining anyone from it.
yeah. I mean, Liverpool obviously attackers are hold. You would imagine. City are good for investment coming up shortly. So if you've got their assets, but in terms of what this video and podcast is about, the captaincy, you said it all there. Trust. Who do you trust? I can't. Yeah, I'm like you. I cannot call this game. Either side could hammer the other. It could be 0-0. Whereas I think Spurs against West Brom, this is what we're recommending. We're recommending a Spurs asset for the captaincy. I'd be very, very surprised if they don't score against West Brom. And if they don't, and somehow West Brom beat Spurs, well, all we can do is look at the fixtures and the form in front of us, and it says Captain Spurs asset. Before we go, I just want to mention the members area. So obviously all the stats that we've got that have been shown during the show have been from the members area. Particularly good. Particularly useful. We were talking about the right hand side of Sheffield United and the left hand side attack for Chelsea. It's those kinds of stats that are quite handy to look at there, but plenty more besides. But for now, David, thanks so much for joining me, and good luck with your captaincy decision.
Just Joe, and good luck to you as well.